Hello, hello, and welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of the Criminal Mastermind, managing partner of Ruane Attorneys, a civil rights and criminal defense firm, and all things social. Over there, my man Seth Price down there in the Delmarva Peninsula. He is the grand poobah of Blue Shark Digital, as well as managing partner of Price Benowitz, DC, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. I'm not in Montana.
You're gonna get me in trouble. I think we got to stop
Kid.
because you're gonna be, no, we're DC, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina. That's all we got right now.
Yeah, but you never know. You guys are growing. You want to buy a firm in Connecticut?
Yeah, you've been asking me for as long as I know you.
so Seth, I wanted to chat with you because I did something this weekend and I thought it was kind of cool. I wrote a book. Well, I didn't write the book. I had CHAT GPT write the book, which is all the buzzword right now. And they came up for me with, I think, 10,000 words over a course of me asking them questions and that type of thing. And it's a very generic book. I mean, it's not it's certainly not personalized to me, although I plan on going in and zhuzhing it up, adding my anecdotes and changing stuff around. But boy, as a starter, it seemed pretty good. So for those of you who are listening or watching who don't know, OpenAI is a consortium, a think tank that has put together basically a number of AI programs, and they released to the wild in the last month their chat feature where you could ask it to research issues for you or questions. I had it compose a rap song for me that I was thinking about performing on a TikTok, all about speeding tickets. And it was actually, I mean, it was generic, but it rhymed and it made sense. But I actually used it to write a book and also to brainstorm some blog topics, some video topics. It seems like this is a good solution for some people who need help pushing content. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, it is clearly the most interesting thing of recent in the content space. It's been out there for a while. Jarvis AI. Google is making these huge proclamations because they don't want to see a wilderness of crap content out there. So I think you got to be very careful, as far as this is not like, hey, let's stop writing content for SEO and put it out there. But, look, we're playing around with it as a starting point. Is there something there? Absolutely. I think the issue always is, if you get lazy, it's sort of like the stuff that I take this the same way. I'm talking from the SEO perspective. Doing it the right way and it will work. Doing it the shortcut way will not. The question, and I think you hit this, is if you use this to help you with your outline as a first draft to sort of put stuff there, it is really freaking cool. And the piece that is frustrating as somebody who creates content, who deals it, pays a lot of freaking money for writers, for editors, for all this stuff, typos are still a thing. And the idea that this is typo free for the most part is just, again, it blows your effing mind. So I think it is not a set it and forget it, but it will definitely be a piece of it. And I think there are people out there saying, is this a threat to Google at some point where you can get answers to stuff without using Google?
Well, let me ask you this. Where is OpenAI? Where's it getting its sources from? That's the thing. I mean, is the AI going in and does it have a brain? Is it indexing websites itself to be able to go in and provide these answers?
And it's whatever you give it. That's what's crazy. So like whatever we're seeing today, imagine what it will be in 3 years as people give it input.
Right. Well, here's the interesting thing. I mean, that's, so I'm going to put on my criminal defense lawyer hat for a moment in having this discussion because I think it could be illustrating to people. So let's say that you have somebody who you're representing, like I do, who's been arrested for cocaine. Do you know that when they go to the lab and they test the cocaine, there's not a computer saying it's cocaine. It's a human being that runs it through a machine. They see the GCMS data points. They start clicking around on those points and then match it to a library that they have created or bought so that it is a created library that is done by humans. And then it's also then done by where people click. And what I'm saying about this is this stuff is only as good as the inputs it originally got. And especially in the legal space, I think you have to be really careful about relying on something like this to create your content, because who knows where they're getting their content from. And they could be, I've caught people who are, posting up on websites a year later after the laws have changed, the old law. And, we got to catch it and take it down and that type of thing. And so it's one of these things where you can't really rush into just using them.
Agreed, but how cool would it be to, with the set and forget it? Because we all have pages that are aged on our site. Imagine you could have it read through and flag potential issues.
Oh, that would be huge.
I'm just saying, like, that would be an example of, and again, you wouldn't want to just automatically update it, but right. The idea that it could tell you, hey, because think about how much stuff did you write 15 years ago that's sitting out there. Yeah. And I know that when major changes to the law come, we go hit it, but that there are things that this could touch. So to me, I look at it right now as a starting place, almost like a first draft. But there are a lot of people watching this. They're saying, hey, how do I, game the system? But I'll say the following, which is, what happens to the guy who's trying to, this is where it gets crazy. Let's say there's a new mass tort and you're like, look, I'm going to put a burner site out there and I'm going to use spam tactics to get the links in. Yep. I'm going to put this there. Is this going to be a way to game the system? Again, will Google catch up to it? Absolutely.
Google's not going to catch up.
Every algorithm update is furthering it. But the fact that you could get something up there quickly when nobody else has anything, that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, I mean, we used it to spot out, our next 100 blog topics, because when you've got the same writers working in your office and you got the same lawyers, you sort of spin out, and you've used all of your bandwidth up, and so you're looking for new ideas. And so we put that in. We got some. Of the 100 that we asked them to produce, 65 of them are topics that we've done, but we phrased them differently. And so I think it's something that we could, maybe if we change up our, our language and change up what we're talking about in the videos, we're going to get somewhere.
Right. So I'll give you the counterpoint. I heard a really cool Conrad Gee conversation on this. And the counterpoint would be, is this any different than the old spinning of content? So for those of you that don't know, there was a point where people basically, to create content, would write one page of content, and then you couldn't have duplicate content, or you take a page of content from one site and you would just rearrange the words almost nonsensically, right? And that was like early AI, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing is it is getting closer and closer to an acceptable form. That said,
well, that said, let me tell you, I ran some stuff and I asked some questions, and I got the same intro paragraph, the same outro paragraph. And it tended, when I asked them to write articles, it tended to put them in a bulleted list or a numbered list format. It was very sort of standardized. And so if you're going to ask, what are what are the speeding ticket laws in Connecticut and what are the speeding ticket laws in New York, you're basically going to get the same article. So you're going to have to spend a lot of time zhuzhing it up or changing it around to make it so that it's unique and individualized content. If you just are relying on this, I think you're just going to wind up with the same thing over and over again. And that, that went out in, 2002, where you could have pages that would rank for the same content, but just changing the place name. So gotcha. It's certainly interesting to me. I mean, it's funny. I went with my trainer, who's going on a 3-week vacation to Australia. He's like, I'm going to write a book. And what are you going to write a book about? He's like, isometric exercise. I'm going to write a book about that between now and when I'm back. And I spent an hour with it on Saturday, and I wrote his book for him. So he's just going to take some pictures and then his book is done, because he doesn't need to be very specific. He's just using it as a calling card to get him and send that out to potentially new training clients. And he was blown away by how he's like, how did you become such a subject matter expert in a weekend in this stuff? I couldn't have written this well. I said, well, actually, I didn't do anything. AI did it for us. So It's certainly something that you can use if you use it correctly.
Well, and I think that's it, right? It is an incredible tool, and but with great power comes great responsibility.
Great
Awesome.
quote there. Okay.
So I got something. I'm pivoting out of content. We could look.
Yeah.
We will probably do a more in-depth show on just this in the future,
Sure.
and get maybe a panel of people to get their thoughts and perspectives on best practices on how to leverage this, because it's freaking cool. Topic du jour for me has been the thought of, as lawyers start to be with you for a long time, you want to give them more opportunity. The thought, and this is done in the PI space extensively, but in the criminal space less, and I think in the family law space that is ripe for this, is building a pyramid or a pod of people, and allowing the lawyers to sort of start to allow for, as they age, to have higher level select cases and get a piece of the people beneath them. Maybe I'm watching too much Sopranos, just 3 episodes from rewatching it for the second time. But the idea of allowing a team together that would maximize, because right now, I know there are a lot of times where if I have a high producing lawyer, they take what's best for them and spit out the remainder. Now, it can be very profitable that way, but I've always wanted to have layers beneath them. Generally, I'm poo-pooed because they don't want to interfere with getting the most possible cases into their personal funnel. They don't call it that, but that's what I'm dealing with. And so I feel that as people are with you 10 years plus, wanting to give them a diversification of income, not just the work they're doing, but sort of simulate the partnership opportunities and allow people to sort of have additional bites of the apple. I want to get your thoughts on that.
So this is interesting. This is actually something that we are planning on talking about in the Criminal Mastermind in February. It's on our calendar. And one of the people that we're bringing in to talk about it is Michael Smith, who who's been at some of the Fisher Masterminds, and he's given me some great ideas about compensations. And what you could do in that situation with a pod is actually give some sort of profit of the pod percentage to the leader of the pack, I guess, the leader of the pod, and actually encourage them to become a more profitable organization rather than one person taking the majority of the highly profitable cases. It's difficult in the criminal context because people stick with one lawyer throughout the whole thing. But I definitely think that there's potential here to create pods. I mean, in the context of family law, I think it could be huge.
Well, and look, I think that there are firms that essentially do that, right? They hire a rock star as a managing attorney, and then they pyramid down. I see this in the how to manage model, where there's an owner off somewhere else, senior lawyer, and then people under them. It's not always stable because there's a lot of weight on that person. That person leaves. That pull, you're pulling out an essential building block to your world.
Right.
That said, and I'm also concerned because is it something that people want, and will they pivot into it? Meaning, I had a bad experience early in my career where we had a junior partner who was responsible for supervising. You could call it as a pod. He had a responsibility for supervising a junior lawyer, and shockingly, he wanted the remuneration from that, but they weren't really going over the cases well enough to discover that this lawyer who was doing expungements really had his eye off the ball and being kind. There was somebody who was not doing their work for a period of time. So it's one of those things, you don't want to just compensate somebody blindly, but you want to make sure that it's with a KPI, with a quid pro quo, that they will make sure that those people are there. Because I don't know, over the history of our firm, I've had 4 people across 4 different jurisdictions, each completely shit the bed. And when I say shit the bed, didn't do work, or completely off the rails. And you're responsible from an ethics point of view to make sure that you have that checks and balance. But it's statistically significant, the number of junior people that have had major issues, and that if you don't have some sort of checks and balance, and it goes back to the age-old debate you and I have had between 3rd through 8th year versus 1st through 3rd year, that bring those 1st through 3rd years in has a liability risk unless they're properly managed.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. And one of the things that we built our systems around was having the management and the checks and balances for those first through third year people. So and we, we were cautious about what we gave them until they were properly trained. But one of the problems is that you have when you're building these pods is that, sometimes these lawyers that are good lawyers, experienced trial lawyers, are terrible managers. Terrible.
No, and look, I already know where that's going to be, because they're the guys who are amazing at teaching. I'm not worried about those, but there are those that are like, want, they're insatiable, like, drug addicts. They just want more and more. Are they going to take that time? And is there a point, or is there a point in life where they do, when they're like, okay, where they do want to take it? I look at my partner, Dave, right? Amazing guy. He says he wants to slow down. He just came out of a 6-week trial. Like, he can't turn it off. I can't even say, can you do it for 80% intensity and take that 20% help manage? And he may say it, but no, he's in trial. He's all in.
Right. And that's part of the thing. And we have a tendency to promote people to positions because of time with you, and not necessarily because of their skill in actually managing. And that's huge.
I see, like, I've made that mistake countless times on my intake team. I promoted somebody because they were the senior person, and that we had before the woman we have now, who's amazing. We had a real mistake made where somebody came in who was a great guy, could be a senior lead, but couldn't manage people.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, we have a problem right now going on with one of our overseas people where they are just disappearing. And I mean, this was a talent who was one of our first people and has been a rock star in the last 6 months, has just essentially disappeared. And they're on a performance improvement plan. It's not taking. And that's a challenge because we've had them go back to their supervisor. And one of the responses was, "How are you my supervisor? I've been here a year longer than you." And well, because this person has management experience and is attentive to the job, you're not answering phones when people buzz you. So that, and I think it's going to flame out the next 10 days.
Something I had a life moment. I'll throw that out there to try to help, to try to help with, anybody else. I did a test call, which I used to do a lot more of on the weekend. I actually needed some information from somebody. And I was basically, I saw like a voice over IP quality issue that I did not like. And I just want everybody to know, like, in the world, everything can go wrong. I talked prior shows about, wanting to upsell our very highly trained people with US cultural sports location issues. I think that if we're going to be in an international world, checking the connectivity issues on a regular basis and having a system to do so, just like you secret shop calls, I think the quality, the transmission quality is something that needs to be graded and make sure that it's in good shape.
Yeah, that's something that we ran into a problem with in the summer. And we actually got rid of a bunch of people in Honduras because they did not have sufficient bandwidth to be able to handle the calls. Calls were getting answered. They were like, "Oh, I'm waiting for it to show up on Park," because they would put it on Park, and the delay of having somebody else you could keep somebody holding for over a minute before the light started. It's before another person on another desk could pick up the call. And we just couldn't stand that.
And sadly, we saw that in Venezuela. We had the best, talent for reasonable that were unbelievable. But if you don't have a stable connection, it's just.
So let me ask you this: is it worth trying to find space and getting, the best and bringing people around and like basically having a remote office?
So look, that's
people work from home.
As you know, I pro forma Black Orchid as a concept because I wanted to train people. I know what I want to do, whether I can do it cost effectively or just do it for myself. But the idea that is the great back and forth, right? So they're what they call BPOs, the people that are like legitimate employees versus the contractors sitting in their own homes.
Right.
I mean, granted, you could take the contracts in their homes and put them through a BPO, but there are guys in Nicaragua and other places that have built those places. I like it. They're cost effective. The downside is you get whoever can commute to that office. What I love about what we have right now is I feel like our quality is so incredibly high because we have the entire world to choose from and not that little community. That said, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I may at some point, you know, there may be a point where you can't do that. In theory, we are testing and making sure that the connectivity for everybody we hire is there, but stuff comes in and out, you know, service areas, you know, there's a flood, stuff gets knocked out. Part of the reasons I don't love the Philippines was that whole deal, you know, was the fact that you'd lose people for hours or days at a time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like maybe you need to look at like Mexico City and find, you know, like a place that's a major, you know, and say, okay, we're opening an office in Mexico City. That's going to be our call center.
There are people who have done it. I mean, when I look at a lot of the international players, you know, it's Philippines, Mexico City, and then like a Nicaragua. There is a demand for that, and that what I've seen for some groups is for higher skilled labor in particular, that you're willing to put that, you know, but that comes with issues too, right? You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Graft, the crime, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's nothing is easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
My partner, I have the saying every day, nothing's easy. Like
nothing is easy.
Nothing is easy.
You know,
speaking of that, I'll pivot to our last topic. You brought up Wikipedia this week.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to tell my trials and tribulations of Wikipedia now that you're an author and podcaster and a mastermind leader.
Yeah, like, why don't I have a Wikipedia page?
Exactly. And it is a crazy, crazy culture. I learned my lesson a long time ago, probably when I first met you. I went and found a guy online who I forget what it was, for $500 would get me on Wikipedia. So I'm like, sold. And I found, you know, Wikipedia posting service. So I put it on. I in fact used Dave. I was pushing Dave Benowitz, who's legit. He's in the paper. He's in the Post. He's doing national stories. And we got flagged. I'm like, what the fuck? And it turns out, I assume it's still the rule. I've not looked at it recently, but we do a lot with Wikipedia, but you are not allowed to pay a consultant to put you on Wikipedia. That is against their rules. And Wikipedia, as you start peeling the onion, is a bizarre thing. They ask for money, but they have a ton of money. It's a bunch of people. It's almost like the people running this are the Instagram comment section. You know, it's like they would eat their own young. I had a guy for a while that acted as an advisor who helped me navigate, and I had a stub, and then I didn't have a stub. And this is the worst part. You could be an Australian 4th league, you know, part-time rugby player, and that qualifies.
Right.
But a business owner that employs several hundred people, who's published places and does all sorts of stuff, unless you check the box of articles written about you, there's a disdain for business owners. And so it is political. It is it's counterintuitive. Be careful about taking somebody publicly who says they do it because they know who those people are. There's a whole gotcha mentality. So what we have tried to do is leverage people that are already legitimately in that ecosystem and then find tie-ins to it. But it is not for the faint of heart. We have, found certain paths to success from an SEO point of view. But man, to get the Jay Ruane article where legitimately you've touched many, many people's lives, it is a real to-do and something that is counterintuitive and not easy and extremely frustrating.
Yeah, I can only imagine. But I was just thinking about this week, but we're heading into the last 10 days of the year, like 8 days left now before New Year's. Do you have any New Year's resolutions, Seth?
Well, I am excited. I am off to the Holy Land. I say next year in Jerusalem, and we'll be in Jerusalem.
Excellent.
So excited. And I think it's to continue to work on the work-life balance, enjoy the stuff. In the last couple of days, I was able to hit a hockey game to watch the OV run and big Giants Commanders game. So I feel like, friends, sports, work, family, like try to make sure that you check all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean that's really what it all comes down. I'm still going to focus on my health next year. I want to keep dropping the weight that I've been able to do. Start working out. I got to do more cardio. I love lifting 3-4 days a week. I got to do more walking. That's really at the end of the day.
I got a question, because
But
you are
but
Mr. Systems. Why is there not
okay.
a system for that for you?
Well, I do have a system. I just ignore it. What I have found that works, it's a pure system. I got to just get out of bed and do it first thing in the morning, because once my day starts, I get away from it. But I wanted to tell people, if you are out on a walk, you can take us on our podcast replay of all of our shows. It's available wherever podcasts are available, on Google, on Apple, on Spotify, on Amazon, on Anchor. You can check out the Law Firm Blueprint wherever you go. Please take us on your trips when you have some downtime over the next couple of weeks. Be sure to fill up yourself with all of our back catalog of episodes. There's some good stuff. I was just listening to one of our old shows where we did a bunch of hacks, and some of them are still valid. So go back in our history and find some of the marketing hacks that we put out there. There's some really good shows where we
Are we going to do like we did prior years? We're going to do a holiday run of shows.
We're going to do some runs of shows next week. I got a lot of good feedback in the group from my review of Clockwork by Michael Michalowicz. So I reread Purple Cow by Seth Godin. I did a video about that. And I'm going to be working on a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to do a book a week. That's one of my resolutions for next year.
Question. We talked about AI. If I want to record stuff, like you always talk about, like I want to, talk a book in, where, we got one project going. What app, or what do you think is the best way to record it, to sort of make it as easy, upload it, get it edited and transcribed?
So I'm a big fan. I've been using SpeechPad for years, and they have dial-a-call. So you just dial in and you dictate it to them, and then they push you back.
What if you want stuff where you don't have connectivity?
Well, what the easiest thing to do in that would be make a voice note on your phone, and then upload the voice note to something like Otter and have it transcribed. That's how I would do it. And since I use a lot of Otter, I do it on the cheap. So it would just be voice note to an MP3 or a WAV file, and then upload that WAV file to Otter for transcription. Are you going to work on Tiger Tactics too?
Exactly.
So there you go. Yeah, I can't imagine seeing you hunched over a keyboard. I don't think that's your style.
No, it's not. But I'm not sure what the over the Atlantic, what the connectivity will be.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. We're talking from DC to Israel.
No, but meaning you can't dial into a phone number there.
Oh, well, you wouldn't be able to do that. You can't dial any of those services.
No. That's why you want like a voice note or something that's on your phone.
Yeah, so I would just leave a voice note on your phone and upload that. And folks, if you want to suggest a book for me to read, I'm going to do one book a week in the Law Firm Blueprint group. Let me know down in the comments, or send me a DM. You can catch either Seth or myself anytime through any of our social channels, or you can email us. And I think that is it. Of course, we're going to take the next week off. Seth's going to be abroad. We'll be back in January for season 5 of the Law Firm Blueprint, which is astounding me that we're going into season 5. And we've created some good stuff over the years. So thank you all for being with us every year. And if you have any suggestions, something you want to hear about, something you want to talk about, please drop us a line. But for that, Seth, any final words for?
No, excited for a great holiday, and we'll see everybody in January.
Awesome, folks. So happy New Year from Seth and from me. And we're going to say bye for now.